What is up guys, Stark here, and today's character spotlight I am doing the final servant from the Fate Excel Zero Order event, and that is going to be the event character herself, Irisviel. So honestly, she is a pretty solid servant, and she's definitely, as you would expect, more of a support type than an attacker, but she does do a pretty good job of it, and she does work pretty well with the units that are in her batch as well. So, you know, it's a nice little combination, and if you know anything about Fate and her family and stuff like that, it's kind of cool that they work together. So she is going to be a caster servant, and she is a 4-star, so she will go up to level 80, and at level 80 she will have 12,476 HP and 8,237 attack. So this will rank her 29th overall in HP and 54th overall in attack. So she's got some pretty solid HP stats, but she got some lower attack stats, but that's pretty typical for casters, especially for support casters such as herself. If you do decide to max her out, she will end up with 11,973 attack and 17,127 HP. So moving on here to her servant skills, she has a very nice kit of skills here for healing and keeping your characters alive, but she does sacrifice dealing any damage whatsoever to have the benefit of being able to heal. But, you know, as a support character, that's kind of what she's there for, so it's a fair trade-off. Her first skill is the Resolve of Dedication A. Now this is a self buff that will increase healing effectiveness for 1 turn. Now this is a bit of a curious skill for me because as far as I understand, this means that if you have this buff on, anytime you're healed, you'll heal more. And this is it's curious to me because you can't choose who it's on. Like, if you could pick which ally you use this skill on, this skill would be much better because you can use it on a character you're planning on healing. But as it being a self buff, it only works on herself. So yeah, when you heal, but you're gonna get more HP, but you're probably not gonna use her healing skills on herself. Now, her Noble Phantasm is AoE, so that really doesn't matter, but her third skill isn't, and it's just really curious that you can't target with this skill. Moving on here to her second skill, it's going to be the Child of Nature A. Now, once again, this is a self buff that will apply Invincible for 1 turn and also increase Noble Phantasm gain for 3 turns. So again, this has the fatal drawback of being a self buff instead of a target buff, and just imagine how much better this character would be if you could pick and choose who you use these skills on. But unfortunately, you cannot. Although Invincibility for 1 turn is still really nice, and the Noble Phantasm gain for 3 turns is very helpful because she lacks Noble Phantasm gain. So it's a nice skill, but again, it just falls a little bit short because it's not a target buff. Moving on here to her third and final skill is going to be the Healing Magic A. This will restore HP to 1 ally. So we finally have our target buff, and it's a pretty solid one here, healing 2,000 HP at level 1 and 3,000 HP at level 10. So it's a pretty solid HP chunk, but just again, remember, you know, how much better this would be if you could use her first skill on that ally. You would get, at level 10, a 50% increase to the healing, so that's unfortunate. Maybe in the future there'll be an interlude or a rank up quest that will change that to make it a target buff, or maybe the next time the event comes back on Japan, they'll update it or something. But for now, it's got a good set of skills, but, you know, she definitely lacks being able to target who she uses the skills on, which definitely makes her a little bit worse than she could potentially be. Moving on here to her class skills, first up is the Territory Creation B, which will increase Arts card effectiveness by 8%, and then her second skill is going to be the Core of the Goddess C, which will apply damage plus 200 and increase debuff resistance by 20%. So moving on here to her Ascension and Skill Enhancement materials. First up for her Ascension, she's going to need the event exclusive Crystal Ball items. So when this event drops, which depending on when this video is posted, it might already be out, but you know, definitely make sure you get all of the copies of the character and all of the Ascension materials, because events on Fate do not come back very often, and you really don't want to wait long before, you know, you can max out the character. So make sure you get it done the first time so you don't have to worry about that in the future. As for her skill enhancements, she's going to need seeds, homunculus babies, feathers, and the roots. I really do wish they would make an event character where the Ascension and the skill enhancement materials are event exclusive, so once you finish the event, you have that character completely maxed out. Instead of having to use materials from your in-stock pool already, you would have to farm for new materials. Now that might make it a bit more grindy, but I do think it'd be pretty cool to have that, so once the event's done, the character's completely maxed out. Moving on here to her command cards and her Noble Phantasm. Predictably, she has 1 quick, 3 arts, and 1 buster. So you do ideally want to use her on art teams rather, just to get the Noble Phantasm going much faster. And then her Noble Phantasm is also art, and this will restore HP, and on the overcharge it will apply guts to all allies for 3 turns. So this is a very good support Noble Phantasm, healing up to 3000 HP at level 5, and then applying guts to all of your allies for 3 turns. So this is really nice because I don't think any other skill can do an AoE guts, and this can help keep your berserkers alive, any character really. With those squishier characters, you can apply guts and heal them, and that's just going to help any character survive longer and make you go further into the fight. So moving on to some of the craft essences that you could use on this character. First up is her level 10 Bond craft essence, which while equipped will increase HP recovery amount of your party by 30%. So this is a nice one. It'll increase the amount of healing that you get for your entire team, so it could definitely benefit with her Noble Phantasm and her 3rd skill. But there are a few other options you could use. Kaleidoscope would be a good one to use. Just having your Noble Phantasm ready from the start of the fight, or almost at the start of the fight if it's not limit broken, is really nice because Irisviel has some pretty low Noble Phantasm generation, and it's going to be a struggle to get her Noble Phantasm ready unless you're using her on a heavy arts team. You can also decide to use the Prisma Cosmos instead for the steady steady Noble Phantasm gain every turn. This is a pretty solid option, honestly, because you don't have to worry about having the generation for it. It'll just automatically gain every turn. And most of the times you're going to use her Noble Phantasm in the boss stage anyway, or, later on in the fight when your characters are dying. So, having this steady gain is really nice. You could also go for the arts card bonus damage with projection for the 15% increase and formal craft for the 25% increase. So now moving on to the character and review portion of the character spotlight. So first up, we're going to have some of the servants you can use with her. And, first up, we are going to have Emiya or Kiritsugu. And he's there for obvious reasons because, why not? Storyline, they're married, so, definitely it'd be fun to use the 2 of them together. Second up, we have Angra Manyu. Now, this character works really well with him because of the healing and the guts. So you can combo her Noble Phantasm with his Noble Phantasm, and you can do some pretty cool damage with it. And if you're using all 3 of them together in the same team, so using Irisviel, Angra, and Kiritsugu, then it's going to be a pretty solid team combination. I think, like I said before, I haven't actually tested it, but in my mind it sounds like it's a good combination. You have Irisviel for healing, you have Kiritsugu to apply target focus onto Angra, and then Angra for his Noble Phantasm for damage, and you can just keep recycling that. It'd probably be a pretty solid combination. Hopefully I can get all 3 of them and I can test it out. Some other good options are the staples for support casters being Waver and Tamino no Mae. Now these are all really good. You can help increase her Noble Phantasm with their arts card stacks, and Waver's skills will definitely help with that as well. And then for Tamino no Mae, she also heals and she reduces cooldowns, so that'll help with Irisviel, so you can have 2 big healers and you can recycle your skills and then have 1 huge damage dealer, and you could just use him as your focus point and just wipe out enemies really fast with him. So now moving on to the rankings. First up, for her stats, she's going to have 3.6 out of 5. This might seem a little bit high, but like I said, I do have a formula for it, and that is what my formula gave me. She is a 4-star servant, so she will end up with pretty solid stats. But don't let that ranking fool you. She is not going to be doing that much damage. She's mostly there for support, but as far as consistency goes, that is what my formula gave me, and that's what she's going to get. And honestly, it's not that bad. She does rank almost top 50 in both stats, so you really can't argue with that. Moving on here to her skill rating. I'm going to give her a 3-star overall in skill ranking. I would have given her a higher rating, but because of her effects where she can't target their allies, that definitely drops her down a few points. That's a really big thing for a support character, and the fact that she doesn't do it, really makes her, I'm not going to say unusable, she's really good as a support, but it makes her harder to use because only one of her skills can be used on her allies, and that's really unfortunate. She'd be so much better of a servant if she could use her first 2 skills on any ally. And then for her Noble Phantasm, I'm going to give her 3 stars as well. It is a very solid support buff for your team. Heals a little bit, applies guts, which is really cool, especially because it's for your entire team, not just one ally. So it's definitely a very good Noble Phantasm, very usable. And then for her survivability, I'm giving her 3.5 stars. She does have a lot of healing, and she has her second skill, which will apply invincibility for 1 turn. So she is going to be pretty tough to kill, and then her Noble Phantasm will also apply Gut. So even if she does fall in battle, she'll come right back, and then you can just continue healing her with her skills. And then for Versatility, I was going to give her a higher ranking here, but I did end up giving her 3 stars for this. And that might seem a little bit low, but as I keep talking about, her skills are primarily only used on herself. And she does have a very good Noble Phantasm, but her Noble Phantasm generation isn't that good. So you do kind of need to combo her with other characters that can help her with that, and that just takes 2 spots on your team. So it does kind of limit the amount of teams you can use her on, but she is a very good support character, and you can definitely put her onto a lot of teams, but she does have a few big flaws that would stop her from being able to be used on any team. So overall for her ranking, she's going to end up with a 3.2 out of 5. She is a pretty solid support servant and definitely something you should pick up and max out in the event as quickly as possible, or at least before it ends. That's all that really matters. You can definitely have fun with her, especially right now where there's not too many servants, and if you don't have any of the other support casters in the game, she'll definitely find her way on a lot of your teams and will benefit your team greatly. So make sure you farm this event when it comes out and get her maxed out. So now I am going to leave you guys here with her Noble Phantasm, which will wrap up this character spotlight, and I will see you guys next time.